So my background was in political science. I studied international political theory, and I got into learning and development working with a subcontractor for USAID when I was in Washington, D.C. working on my master's program in international development. And that's where I started working on developmental programs, mostly focusing with USAID work in Egypt, in Panama, and in Namibia. So that was my entry point into adult learning and development, working on exchange programs, and I really enjoyed working with the participants. A lot of them were ministry level people that had come in to the United States for these USAID sponsored programs and came here to do learning workshops and exchanges, and I was fascinated by the field, and so that's where I started. Actually, by decision. When I was in graduate school, I really wanted to work with programs at an international level. And being that I was in Washington, D.C., it was easy because most of those opportunities were either working for USAID or working for one of the subcontractors that are based in Washington, D.C. So there was a lot of opportunity there to really go into the public sector, and I knew that I wanted to go there, so that's where I started working for Casals and Associates. Was the first company that I worked with when I was in Washington, and then I went to work for the Institute of International Education, IIE, also in Washington, D.C. Yes, definitely. The thought that I can have an impact and make a real difference in people's lives, particularly those that are not as fortunate as I am, and that, you know, even if I'm so remote working from a headquarters location, that I am helping the people that are directly helping them in the field. And you know, if I can say that because of my intervention I saved a life, that for me makes all of the difference in the world. Well, I made it to become the Deputy Director of Human Resources after I've worked in different functions within learning and career development here at UNFPA. So I have to say it's nice to be able to be at the level where I can have more of an impact on, you know, the human resources work, and also have a direct connection with a lot of our country representatives as well as with the directors at UNFPA, and hoping that we can carry forward the important mission and strategy of UNFPA as well as of our new human resources strategy, which was just launched this year. Well, I think it's important to realize that although we are not an organization that's just focusing on humanitarian work, mostly development work, that we do things like have emergency birthing kits available so that people in remote parts of countries that are undergoing conflict or natural disasters can have materials available so that expecting mothers who go into delivery at the time can at least have a sterile blanket and some of the necessary tools that they would need to be sure that to ensure that the delivery is safe. Somebody that inspires me. You know, I look for what are they really hoping to contribute to the organization, what unique skill sets they have, do they have a vision, how do they tell their story, you know, and how do they use the background and not necessarily repeat it in their application or in their interview, but how do they use it to really tell you about what they can contribute to the organization. Somebody that had not read the job description. We were once interviewing for a post in Afghanistan. Afghanistan is a non-family duty station, and it was also a rotational post, which means that after your 2 or 3 years in Afghanistan, you would have to move to another country as part of our natural rotation process at UNFPA. And when we asked the candidate if they were aware that Afghanistan was a non-family duty station and that they would have to move after a few years in Afghanistan potentially to a worse country or a better country if they were lucky, the candidate said, "Oh, I didn't realize that it was a non-family duty station and therefore I'm not interested." So it was quite surprising. If you get to the level of the interview, at least read the job description very carefully and be able to answer the questions that the panel may ask of you. I met this young woman from Asia who said that she wanted to work at the United Nations because when she was young and came from a poor family, her father was hired by one of the UN agencies in her country. And because her father was able to earn enough money, he was able to send her to get a very good education. She was a student at Columbia University here working on her master's program. And she felt that she really wanted to thank the UN by contributing to the UN and working for them, having an opportunity to work for the United Nations as a way of her paying back for being able to support her father in supporting his family going forward. So she really wanted to contribute back to the system, and I thought that was fantastic.